He just said the moon makes cold light. I know what you may be thinking. Haley, this isn't the kind of video you would post on your channel, your skate channel, right? Well, today I feel like I have to post this video because it has come to my attention that some people who watch this channel and comment on videos are skeptics of the natural world and how we look at it. I'm saying flat earthers. There's some flat earthers that have commented on my videos. We're gonna like debunk this. It's kind of crazy that there are some people out there who deny an already undeniable scientific, not even scientific, okay, it's scientific, but it's just a fact that the Earth is a sphere.
It's a sphere.
It's not flat. It's not a flat plane. I think it's 2% of Americans believe that the Earth is flat. They just completely reject science.
But we'll try to use common sense and just like think. We don't need to use scientific like equations to explain why the Earth is round.
They think the ISS is like made in Hollywood. They think it's all like a sham.
So it's just like on the floor.
Yeah.
So if he wants to say that the moon landing was fake, you gotta think about like the technology they had back then. They weren't using green screens like 4K cameras, suspension systems that are like this elaborate.
Yes, but they did have elaborate enough technology to go to the moon. And they put all that effort into going to the moon and not movies because that's way more impressive than China.
Exactly. So it's like if we didn't have like the chickenpox vaccine, the polio vaccine, there would be just distinction of the human race. There would be so much more death. And it's what I think is weird is that a lot of flat earthers, like when they were kids, they were vaccinated by their parents and like they had vaccines. So it's like, why do you think? I'm like, do you think you're just special on that it didn't affect you?
Right.
Like. No.
So gravity, like, okay, yeah, we all live on this plane, this flat plane, and the thing that's keeping us to the flat plane is that we're all accelerating upwards really quick. A lot of flat earthers will try to make you think that they're like, oh, the spinning ball theory is so bogus. But it's like, is it really saying that, oh, we live on a spinning ball? Is that really more insane than saying, oh, we live on this huge flat giant plane?
So when you're flying around it, you're really flying flat because you're not going up. Like you're so small, you're just falling like with gravity. So you don't have to turn. Like you're flying on a flat plane.
Yeah, a lot of times it's like, okay, well, yeah, if the Earth is curved, then why is the plane constantly dipping down all the time? Like, well, because if so, I don't think people understand how massive the Earth is. It's pretty big. I don't think they understand how small a plane is compared to that. It's pretty small.
So here we go. Your show, so you lead the way. But for me, this is a test if humanity is going to survive because you guys are the future of this world. And I'm going to show you stuff that you never even thought of. And I'm really curious if you guys are going to be able to see it. So
yeah. I don't have a completely closed mind going into this interview. Like, so far, I haven't seen any concrete evidence, though, of flat Earth. So if anyone could explain something like logical, I'm open for it. I'm open to hear.
And I'll give you one better than that. When I first heard about this, I had a closed mind. I went in. You're going in with an open mind, so kudos to you for that. But I had a closed mind. And it's not, luckily I did it in 2015 when YouTube and Google would serve you good information. If you Google flat earth, you're going to just get disinformation there's teams of paid shills, trolls, whatever you want to call them out there, putting out crap information. Like if you try to search, let's say you say for the next week, 18 hours a day, I'm going to research flat earth. You're going to find maybe 2 hours worth of good content. The rest is going to be propaganda nonsense to gatekeep your mind. So with that said, I'll just start real quick, and then you guys could ask questions. I'll just give you a quick little intro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool?
Yep.
So when you think of flat Earth, people think this. No flat earther believes this. If you Google flat Earth, you end up at the Flat Earth Society. That is a government-controlled disinformation site. Obama plugged it a half a dozen times in his speeches. Okay, that's a place that'll tell you, well, flat earthers believe that the Earth is rising at 9.8 meters per second to create gravity. No flat earther believes that. That's only what globe believers believe flat Earth believers do. So, excuse me. The other thing is we're not a pancake. We're not a disc floating in space with a bunch of other round planets. Like if you Google flat Earth in space, this is what you see. This is Flat Earth Society nonsense. Nobody believes this. So if the Earth isn't a pancake floating in space, what is it? And the best way I describe it is it's like a pond or a puddle, right? A puddle is where water accumulates in the low spot in the land, and the edge of the puddle is where the land is higher than the water. Make sense? Right?
Right. Okay.
And a pond is a bigger puddle. A lake is a bigger pond. And the way I describe the world is it's a giant lake. A giant lake. Large bodies of water at rest lay flat, scientifically testably, provably flat. We can prove that. All of the islands, continents are surrounded by water, but all of the water is surrounded by higher land. Antarctica is the highest land on Earth. Antarctica is not a continent at the bottom of a spinning ball. Antarctica is all of the land that surrounds our known world, and nobody is allowed to explore this outer space. It's off limits to everybody until the year 2041, and by then they'll kick it down the road another 60 years. So with that said, hit me.
Okay, you're saying that the water just collects like in the earth like it would for a lake, but what forces make the water collect like that? Why does it stay down? Like, why does it stay down on that
very good question. So gravity for one, if you talk to the high priests of scientism like Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye, and everyone else, gravity is a theory. And it's such a crappy theory. 96% of it is made up with dark matter and dark energy, which has never been seen, never been tested, but they theorize that it's real because gravity doesn't work without it. Well, it doesn't work with it either. So I'm with you. If I had a handful of ping pong balls and marbles and I held them in the air over a pool and I dropped them, they're both going to fall through the air because they're more dense than the air. The ping pong balls are going to sit on top of the water because they're less dense than the water, and the marbles are going to go to the bottom because they're more dense. So the question is, what makes things go down? We live in this free energy system. I don't know if you guys have looked into free energy, but it's a real thing. The sun and the moon are the cathode and anode of the Earth battery. The salt water, not the fresh water, carries the current. Salt water carries electricity. And the land is the salt bridge of the battery. So the Earth does not move at all. It has a negative charge to it. That's not a theory. It has a testable negative charge to it. And there's voltage in the air. When you leave the Earth, a meter off the ground, there's 100 volts. 2 meters off the ground, there's 200 volts. And it goes up from there. And we believe that there's a dome over us, which has the positive. Now, a lot of this is like, well, this is too much for me. This is how a battery works. So that negative charge, it's a incoherent electrical charge, and it attracts things. It's a very weak force, super weak force, just like they say gravity is a weak force, and it attracts things to it, right? So so how can we prove that? Because first thing is, every test for mass attracting mass has failed. They have one called I don't know, I forget, it was these two giant lead balls in a barn. Globers don't even use that as an excuse anymore because it's just flawed on so many purposes. But here's the thing, a tinfoil triangle, when we put an electric charge into it, it goes up. As soon as that electrical charge is more than the Earth's electrical charge, it repels from the Earth. Okay, so it's electromagnetism that establishes the down, and the relative buoyancy and density sort everything else out.
Well, first off, to address that very long point you made, you start off by saying gravity is just a theory, and I feel like you're getting caught up on the semantics of the word theory. I know you probably understand that a theory is a very well-tested and supported hypothesis with thousands and thousands of experiments, but it's kind of hard to disregard gravity as a theory when it's like one of the highest things you can hold like a phenomenon to. Yeah.
Well, so that's one definition of a theory, and I heard you say that. But it's a theory that can't be tested. It actually is just a theory. Without it, the entire heliocentric model falls apart. So here we have the sun, which is this giant ball, right? So first, if you believe in the heliocentric model, nothing exploded, created everything, and then all of the rocks turned into rocky planets, and all of the gases turned into giant gas balls and left a vacuum in between. Well, that's scientifically impossible, but so these giant gas balls have so much gravity, they can hold on to the Earth and all of the other planets in a row for millions of miles farther. But the Earth somehow holds on to the moon. And when the moon's coming around the backside of the Earth towards the sun, how come it doesn't speed up or get ripped away? And when it's moving away from the sun, how come it doesn't slow down? It doesn't. The sun's gravity doesn't perturb any moons, but it only holds on to the ball. So here's a test that you can do. Take the world's best supercomputer. It's called the 3-body problem. You put a sun in there and you say, okay, it's this big, it's got this much gravity, and you put another planet in there, you set them in orbit, it works perfectly. You can predict where it's going to be for any amount of time into the future. Add one more body, either a moon or another planet, and the entire thing goes into chaos mode and never repeats. If the Earth was a heliocentric if the solar system was what they say, when we have these planetary alignments, everything would move. Nothing would repeat, but everything repeats. Everything repeats. Go out tonight, look at the stars, and then next year, same night, same time, look at the stars. They're in the exact same position, even though we're corkscrewing through space, supposedly, traveling billions of miles every year, and somehow all of the stars line up again. That's impossible.
You don't think it's because, I know you don't believe in the vast outer space, but you don't think it's because stars are already so far away from us? And
so that's something. By the way, I said the same thing. This is indoctrinated into us from cosmos, from all of this stuff. We can scientifically prove that that's impossible. For example, if the sun, they tell us the sun is this giant ball, right? And we're this tiny little dot, and this is the size comparison or whatever it is. If the sun was a mile over your head, it would fill the entire sky, just for sizes. It would fill the entire sky. We move the sun 93 million miles away, which is another made up story, and it turns into the size of a coin at arm's length. You with me?
With you still.
Okay. If I made that 24 times farther, there's no way you can see it. Its angular size scientifically would be provably is smaller than your eye could resolve. Well, that's 3 light hours. If I made it 24 times as far away, that's 3 light hours. 3 light hours. We scientifically can prove that we couldn't see the sun. So let's look at Polaris, our North Star. They say Polaris is 46 times larger. So all we'd have to do is say, okay, 3 light hours times 46, we'll call that 2 days. So 6 light days away. We could not see Polaris, but they tell us it's 433 light years away. I know these are big numbers, but we can scientifically prove that we could not see Polaris for one, just by the angular size at 6 light hours, and they tell us it's 433 light years away. It's nonsense. Are you guys familiar with the Georgia Guidestones?
No, but
all right, go ahead.
What you're saying, the reason you can see the starlight is because there's nothing in between it. There's no way to dilute the starlight in space.
It's in a vacuum.
So
right, it's in a vacuum.
I'm with you. And there's a thing called the inverse square law of light. Every time you double the distance to a light, even through empty space, it's 1/4 the brightness. So you have that to deal with. Okay. If the sun is its brightness, if we made it, just double the distance, it's 1/4 the brightness. So that's 186,000 miles. We'll call it 200 million miles. It's 1/4 of the brightness. 400 million miles, it's a 16th of the brightness. 800 million miles, we're not even to a friggin' light day yet. We're nowhere. And it would be so dim. Science proves that we can't see these things. Now we're just told light travels forever. The stars we're looking at were there 30 million years ago. Nonsense. It's all made up nonsense. And we can prove it. Have you guys ever looked up at Mars? Seen Mars in the sky?
Yeah.
Sure.
It's bright, right? It's pretty darn bright. It's brighter than any star. It's got a little red hue to it, right? So NASA tells us that Mars is a dusty, dirty ball, right? Dusty, dirty ball. Here's a picture from the rover, supposedly on Mars. How is this thing reflecting light all the way back to Earth using the inverse square law of light? Or even not, let's just say it's reflecting it at this brightness. How do we see it brighter than a star? And also, this is Greenland. This is from NASA's website. This is Greenland. This is from NASA's website. This is a picture from Greenland. Do you see the problem?
A lot of hills that look exactly like each
This
other.
is the exact same photo. They just turned it into a sepia tone and took out the clouds. Okay? NASA's lying. NASA lies about everything, and I could prove that.
Excluding the 2 different images, if we're just talking about how we can see Mars, right? So if we're just talking about why we can see Mars from here and it's so bright, if the surface of the planet is so dim, right? The light's not being reflected off the surface of the planet. It's being reflected off of Mars' thin atmosphere that is highly...
The 1% atmosphere. Is that what you're saying? It's being reflected off of that?
I mean, that's the same with any planet, though.
Okay, so we see how big and bright the sun is. Well, if you're on Mars, it's much smaller. The sun is tiny on Mars. So that little tiny sun can light up Mars and send that light back to Earth as bright as a star or the sun. That's a belief that if you believe that, I don't know how I could help you.
Nuclear fission. It's massive and extremely bright.
Wait, say that again?
The sun supports its own gravity by nuclear fission. The mass in the center is so dense and so hot that it's smashing molecules together in fission, so making new molecules, which produces nuclear energies, allowing it to support its own gravity. And in doing so, it releases light and heat energy. So
you got an A in physics, I'm sure, because you memorized and regurgitated that nonsense perfectly. There's absolutely no proof of that whatsoever. How is that heat sent to us through the emptiness of space, and then it's just the right temperature where we are?
That's the fluke. That's why there's not a lot of Earth we're just able to see.
So if I went halfway to the sun, should it be warmer?
Halfway to the sun.
That's why Venus is like Venus would be like inhabitable because that planet's so hot because they're closer to the sun.
Venus is another one. Venus's size and the distance that they tell us when it's at its closest to us is smaller than our eyes' ability to see. So we can't see it. And then there's other times when it's on the other side, when it's farther away, there's no way we can see it when it's at its closest. So you're repeating stuff that's unverifiable, told by the guys at NASA. I guess we should jump to NASA and just show you how they're faking everything. Because once you are dealing with liars, then you can't take anything they say as a fact unless you can verify it yourself. I'm showing you stuff you can verify, but we'll jump into that next. Go ahead. Next proof.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about the sun and the moon. Like, it's not how we perceive it, like in the flat Earth model. Like, I've never just what is it? What is the flat Earth model?
What is the sun and the moon? So the sun, again, anything above our heads or anything beyond the shoreline of Antarctica, we don't know because we can't go there. But we can do experiments and tests, and we can theorize stuff and do stuff that'll show us that, all right, that makes a lot of sense. This sun is clearly not going down. It's clearly just going away. It depends on where you are in the world, the humidity in the air, all sorts of things. And you can see that the sun is just moving away, right? It's not going down. You have to believe that when you're watching the sunset, that you're falling over backwards faster than the speed of sound, because that's what's making the sun appear to go down. That's crazy. That's insanity.
Why
is that insanity?
Well, I'm a little lost on how like that would be crazier than thinking the Earth is like moving away.
The Earth is not moving away.
No, it's just that you're saying like the speed of sound is like some unfathomable speed where it's only like 1,000 or 700
miles an hour. So the sun and the moon are within the Earth system. They circle around, and they basically just go around within the Earth system underneath the firmament. Everything that we see is between us and the firmament.
So the moon and the sun are very small.
Very small. And they're not, the things that we see, they're not physical, okay? They're more of a reflection or a projection into our world system.
From where?
Well, that's a great question. I say within the firmament or above it. This is just a shot from a certain weather conditions where we have these sun dogs, and science will go, well, that's the crystals and everything. The sun manifests in a spot in the sky relative to each person viewing it, right? If we were outside, two of us were outside 50 yards apart looking at a giant mirror, and the sun was setting behind us, and I sent Haley up to the mirror and I say, hey, draw a circle right there with a Sharpie. That's where I see the sun. And then they went over to where you were standing 50 yards away. She'd draw another circle, and those circles would be 50 yards apart, but we're both looking at the sun in a different position. The more people you try to get to triangulate the position of the sun or the moon, the worse the calculations come out, the farther off they get, because we're not looking at something in the same position. But again, we don't need to look up at the optics of the sky to see what shape the Earth is, because when you're looking up at the optics of the sky, there's a lot going on. There's water. There's possibly a curved glass-like dome. And when there's water and curved glass involved, you don't know what direction things are moving, what direction things are facing. None of it makes any sense. Watch when they move the glass here. Which way does the arrow go? Okay. So the directions of things in the sky and the way we see them, right? All bets are off the table when we're looking up at the sky.
So someone threw up a big glass dome, or was it just
a water
somehow?
It's not somebody. It's this world was intelligently designed. That's up to you to figure out who the heck did that, what the heck did that, right? It's just intelligently designed. That's as far as I take it. It's intelligently designed, provably so. I mean, and we didn't evolve from pond scum. We are designed. By who? Can make up a million stories. I don't know. Here's just go ahead. Oh. No, if the sun is 93 million miles away, can you explain this?
What about it?
He's saying the clouds going behind it.
I'm saying the sun is within the clouds, and that's because we're not seeing a physical sun.
Where? Oh.
This is in Florida. That was in Florida. That was in Florida.
I feel like an iPhone.
No. This was done with a P900 super zoom camera. One of the things that good. No, good. I'll let you ask questions. I can keep on going. I just want to make sure I answer your questions.
Okay.
I have a quick question. So we're saying the Earth is a pre-designed world, right?
Yes.
It is a intelligently designed world.
Yeah. By some higher power or higher intelligence, whatever.
Maybe a moron made it. I don't know.
Who knows?
I would say a lot of people like to put the word God or the creator. I don't like to label things.
Okay.
All right.
But past the walls that you say we're not going to be able, they said 2041, but then you think they're going to push it back another 60 years?
Well, the Antarctic Treaty went into effect in 1959, and it says nobody is allowed to independently explore Antarctica under any circumstances until the year 2041. And if you look at what's that?
I was just following along.
So, Admiral Byrd flew out beyond the South Pole, supposedly. He said there's land bigger than America. Well, that's a problem because Antarctica isn't bigger than America. And that's filled with resources that no human has ever stepped foot upon. And then all of a sudden we have the Antarctic Treaty that goes into effect and no one's allowed to go there, right? People say, well, where's the ice wall? Well, here's the ice wall. There's a million pictures and videos of it, more pictures. And some of the areas of Antarctica have like a rocky shoreline, but most of it is just where the sun hasn't been able to melt the accumulating ice. Antarctica used to not be covered in ice.
Right, because the sun and the moon, they are in the same orbital path over the Earth, right?
Let me show you a little. I'll show you a easy way to see that if I can. Here it is. So this is called the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, and basically what it shows you is we're looking down. The sky is a perfect clock. The sun is the hour hand, but it's off the hour hand right now because we're in daylight savings time. So the real time is an hour earlier than they tell us. And it circles around within the tropics, which are those yellow lines. The inner line is the Tropic of Cancer. The outer yellow line is the Tropic of Capricorn. And you can see that there's a little crescent moon coming out from the sun. The sun will lap the moon once every 28 days. Okay? So as the sun goes around, it gets farther and farther from the moon. So the phase of the moon, its position relative to the sun it keeps track of the weeks and the months. There used to be 13 months of 28 days. They called them months, but then they hijacked our calendar and changed it to 12 months of random days with a leap year in there. Okay. So and then also the stars do the same. The stars are spinning just slightly faster than the sun. So right now the sun is in, I guess this is Taurus. And next month, this zodiac will catch up and the sun will hang out in here. The following month, it'll be here in Cancer, and the stars will lap the sun once a year. So tonight, as I said, you go check out the stars. They'll be exactly in the same position, the same night every year from here and forever. So let me explain how this works, how the seasons work. Okay. So we have the height of our summer is the summer solstice when the sun is over the Tropic of Cancer, which is this inner yellow line. Right now, the sun is approaching that line. It's getting there. The red line is the equator, and the outer yellow line is the Tropic of Capricorn. So if I jump the sun forward to July, so are we in July here? In July, it's pretty much over the Tropic of Cancer. So that's when southern United States has the hottest summer. It's hot in Miami in June and July because the sun is directly overhead. It's freezing in Australia in July because the sun is far away. But if I jump the sun forward 6 months, it goes out to the Tropic of Capricorn, and Australia has their summer because the sun is over its head. It's directly overhead. The sun migrates in and out every 6 months. It goes out.
It just goes faster the more towards the outer.
When it goes on the outside, yeah, it is going faster. But again, it's not a physical object we're talking about. But one of the ways you can prove that it's going faster is in places in January, December and January, in places like South Africa and Central America, when the sun sets. Where are you guys located? What state?
California.
So in California, when the sun sets in June and July, when in the middle of our summer, how long is it still light out? Like an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours later, it's still light, right?
Yeah.
And that's because the sun is on its inner track, which is the slowest. Because it's the slowest circumference it makes. But in those places I just mentioned, in January and December, when the sun sets, 5 minutes later, it's pitch black. And that's because the sun is beaming away at a much faster speed.
I mean, okay, I guess you did explain seasons kind of, but you also explained seasons on the globe.
Well,
let's
talk about that. Go ahead.
Wait, I'm just looking at the model with the sun.
Okay.
It looked like, I know it's not the most accurate representation of it, but like,
go ahead.
It just, how does the sun like concentrate its light like that? Like,
yeah,
it looks like it's going so far wide and not like anywhere towards the moon. You'd think, I know the sun's different, but you think maybe the sun might outshine the moon's light if it's like, I don't know, level.
Also, it's like, so what I'm a little confused on is I'm confused, like, do the sun and moon exist? Are these like holograms you're saying they're projecting? Like, what is the sun made out of?
Again, anything above our heads, we can't know for sure. Nobody knows. And the only thing you could say about the things we see in the sky, stars, planes, comets, not planes, stars, sun, moon, stars, comets, is that they're lights. We don't know what they are. We don't know how big they are. The way they came up with the distance of the sun is the most ridiculous calculation ever. And it's based, with some false information in there. So no one knows. Just after this recent eclipse, some amateur astronomers were saying, hey, something was wrong in the calculations. I think the sun is farther. They think it's millions of miles farther than they say, but science can't do that because then they have to change the size of every other planet and everything. So when you actually apply science to the helio-nonsensical model, it completely falls apart. So the sunset is very interesting. So let me show you that. The sunset is all due to perspective. And so first, think about this. Let's imagine you're in like a big gymnasium and all the lights are out. It's pitch black in the gymnasium, and you light a candle and you put it on the floor on one side of the gym. That candle is going to light up an area, and there's going to be no light on the other side of the gym. So if you went over on the other side of the gym and laid down on the floor and looked across, yeah, you're going to see that. You're going to see the candle. It's going to look really close to the floor due to perspective. But if there was atmosphere in between over that distance, it would actually block the sun. And I'm going to show you how that actually happens. So here's an experiment I did. First, to show you how the sun sets. This is my flat Earth counter. This line is the path of the sun, and it's level to the counter, and I'm just bringing the sun across it. This is either mountaintops, something that's above your eye level, could be the cloud deck, whatever it is. I'm showing you that I'm not going below it. Now, on the far end of the counter, I have another camera that's looking up from the counter, from the Earth's point of view, just like when we look up. And so watch this, what this looks like. So here it is from the other side, and it looks like it's going down, but it's really going level. Like if I showed you this first and said, is this line level or is it sloped down? You'd say slope down. And it gets eclipsed by this thing in the distance. And whether this is clouds or mountain, in the distance, it looks like it's at eye level. Clouds touch the horizon at 30 miles away. Okay. So that's how you think it. Now I'm zoomed in. Now here it is with a real sunset. You would think that the sun's going to set behind this horizon, but it's setting behind this horizon, which is the atmospheric deck of opacity. Okay, show it again. It's exactly what we witness. The one on the top right, that's real. That's an actual sunset. And I'm showing you, I'm modeling how it happens. Right? One more thing. This one will get you. I have a drone and I put it up on it has to be like 32 degrees outside, super clear, no humidity. And I'm watching the sunset over the land because I'm on the East Coast. So it's over the land for me. So there's no moisture in the air. And I watched the sun, and in 5 minutes time, the sun went from up here. It went down, 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 down. And if the earth was spinning, it would keep on going, but it didn't. It went down, 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 and it stopped. And it sat here for 10 minutes. I have this sped up super fast. And instead of dropping down, it just faded into the soup of the atmosphere. Here it is again. It just fades away. Okay. It sat there for 10 minutes. My friends at the beach saw it set from the bottom up 10 minutes earlier.
I've watched plenty of sunsets and that's never happened.
Well, no, because you didn't watch it from altitude with no humidity. You watch it and this is what you see. This cloud deck up here looks like it's at eye level to you, but when the sun goes away, it looks like it sets due to perspective.
In a plane.
What's that?
Have you seen a sunset from a plane?
Yeah, absolutely. And only when it gets far enough away from you will it set on an airplane. But there are flights sometimes where the flight is taken off at the right time during the right month and it's chasing the sun the whole way and it never sets. This sun should dip below that horizon if it was a ball, but it doesn't for the entire flight. We've had pilots on from KLM Airlines. We had one on, and she was explaining how there's no way this could happen. Telling us how the gyros in the planes work, that they never count for curvature. All the flight manuals talk about a flat, non-rotating plane for all of their models. And then the next day, she was fired.
Couldn't make a comment on that because I haven't heard of that, But
I'm showing you lots of stuff that you've never heard of. I'm pointing to some doors. When we're done, if you guys go, okay, the earth is flat, that's no better than believing the ball. You're going to be like, I didn't know all those doors were there. Now I got to go look, because belief is the enemy of knowing. If you believe something, it's easy. Like, where do I live?
East Coast.
Do you know that, or do you believe it?
I mean, I could probably check using your IP address. You could, but that would take time and effort. It's just easier to believe. And especially when someone in a white lab coat or a teacher in the front of a classroom tells you something, you just believe it. You read it in a textbook, you believe it, but you don't verify. I do live on the East Coast. You can trust me. You can read my facial expressions because I'm not wearing a face diaper, and you can kind of tell, use your common sense versus nonsense. Good.
Talking about that really quick though, the plane chasing the sun, it wouldn't dip because I don't know. So the sun is setting because the Earth's rotating, but if you're flying with it, you're just chasing it. Like it's just you're going with it. Is that?
Yeah, but the sun is moving 1,000 miles an hour, and the plane's only going 500 miles an hour. So
that's just perspective.
It's not moving.
Well, the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. That's what I meant. So relative to the sun. So on the helio nonsensical model, so the sun would be gaining 500 miles an hour on them, and it should drop. It's already close to the horizon, but it's not.
You're higher up now.
It's right there. I mean, if you look at high altitude balloon footage, which we have plenty of, you'll see that the sun is right there above the earth.
Okay.
It's right there, lighting the earth up locally, lighting it up locally.
Where's the ice
Perfect.
wall?
Where's the moon?
Oh, it's probably on the other side. I don't know. It's just the moon moves around, and when you're in space, not in space, when you're up at this high altitude, 100,000 feet or so, the moon is a tiny little speck. Okay, a tiny little speck, and that's because it's not being projected and magnified into our atmosphere. Here's a, if you watch any NASA rockets go up, they all curve over and go down. They, within 10 seconds of launch, there's 5 edits already from different camera angles because it's just a movie production. But here's some amateur rocket that went up, uninterrupted feed. I've got this little sped up, looking down, and it went up 73 miles, and all of a sudden it went kerplunk, and it made this sounded like dropping a stone into a pond noise. Not saying what that is. It seems to have gone into a thicker medium. But the interesting that happened here, this was in Arizona, okay? It's up 73 miles. And when it turned on its side, it could see the moon, which came up over here. Here it comes. A little farther. Boom. And this dot right here, that's the moon. That is the moon.
Okay.
Okay. Well, the moon was over New Zealand at that time. So if the Earth is a basketball and Arizona's on the top of the basketball, this rocket was 1/4 of a millimeter over that basketball. And it could see the moon underneath the basketball. Makes 0 sense.
But
I mean, we don't really know. I couldn't tell you for sure. You just said the moon was there.
Right. You have to go you have to go verify this for yourself. It's called the Go Fast rocket. Here's another thing. Skateboarding would be impossible on a spinning Earth. Impossible. You can never do any of those tricks if the Earth was spinning.
Why not?
Well, maybe it is spinning watching you do some of those tricks recently. Maybe it is spinning a little bit.
Why wouldn't you be able to skateboard?
Oh, because can you skateboard on top of a car racing around a track going in a circle? I mean, it's insanity.
A skateboard on a car is a lot smaller, a lot bigger.
Well, they tell us the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, and Neil deGrasse Tyson says that the water, the equator bulges 14 miles high. That's half the height of Everest. Okay, 14 miles high. 14 miles high. Well, you only fly about 5 miles high. If you're flying from the United States to South America, when do you climb triple your distance just to skim over that hump? Okay? It's all nonsense. It's all complete and total nonsense.
Well, it's not like the Earth is like this, and then right at the equator it shoots straight up like a.
The plane's flying parallel with the land.
Yeah, so if it's
so that hump, it climbs over that hump and goes down, and gravity mirrors that hump. Is that what you're thinking? Because that's not what science says. Science says gravity goes all towards the center. Yeah. If there's a hump, then a plumb line near the equator, halfway up that hump, would go sideways a little bit, right? Again, it's insanity when you look at this. Let's look at some southern plane flights, because this one might get you thinking, right? So there's issues with the way planes go. If I could find where did it go? Where'd it go? So here's one. China, Taiwan to Los Angeles. Hawaii is right here. NASA is in charge of all plane routes, by the way, all in charge of all GPS. It's all a deception. Right about here, there was a medical emergency and they needed to land the plane. If you were the pilot, where would you land? Why? What about next choice? Where would you land?
Probably LA.
LA. Good choice. Two good choices. Would you go to Alaska?
What do you mean by medical emergency?
Well, a heart attack, a baby. I forget the story. But this has happened a whole bunch of times. But if you look at this is the actual route. Taiwan, medical emergency, Alaska. It's a straight line. Okay. That's the actual route. There's a book called 16 Emergency Landings Prove Flat Earth. Okay. And every single time, the place that they chose to land is in a straight line according to the flat Earth map, or thousands of miles out of the way according to the globe map. It's crazy when you actually look at it.
I've flown on a plane to Hawaii from LA.
Yeah, that's a straight line. And by the way, when you are 100 miles offshore, you're no longer on GPS. You're in estimated mode.
If Alaska's under that straight line like you just showed, what happens when you like? I've looked out the window for the majority of the flight, and it's just water.
You are just flying over water. Hold on, let me pull up the map again.
I thought it was just over Alaska on that straight line.
No.
Go around.
So here, how about this? So right out here, and Hawaii is right out here.
But I thought,
if you
Hawaii's
go back
out here.
If you went back like 2 more slides, I think it was LA.
I see what you're saying. I thought you know how you had the straight line from Taiwan to LA?
Yeah.
I thought Alaska was under that straight line as well. Or I thought
Alaska was under that straight line.
Yeah,
Hawaii was nowhere near it.
Yeah,
That's why they didn't land in Hawaii.
Hawaii was under it as well.
Yeah.
Like,
so this was the
didn't know.
actual route, but on a globe, this is what they told everybody they were doing. But in fact, they're going all the way up here, all the way over. And that's a straight line on a flat earth map. The globe is just a flat earth map wrapped around a sphere. Okay. It's complete nonsense. You know, here's another one. This one might help you.
I mean, I do disagree with you. The globe is a poor representation of our actual world, but that's just because areas of interest like North America and Europe are expanded more. If you
like on a map.
If you
That's
look
what
at
they tell us, yes.
true sizes of continents are different in reality versus the globe.
Here's another one. Buenos Aires, a major city, and Perth, Australia, a major city. And this is the path that Flight Aware will tell you that the planes take. Well, no one's allowed to fly over Antarctica, and nobody ever does fly over Antarctica, and that's because Antarctica doesn't exist as a ball on the bottom of a plane. But when you look at it, here's the real flight path. It goes from Buenos Aires to either Miami or Texas, what is that, Houston, and then it stops in California, then it stops in Sydney, and then it flies over to Perth, or it goes this way, Europe, Singapore, Perth. And this is the route that they actually go. Nobody goes zip over and pops up over here. It's never, ever, ever been done. Right?
Do you think that's because they need like gas, or maybe that flying over Antarctica where there's no place emergency land might not be a good idea?
Well, that's the excuse that they use, but there are direct flights from Santiago to Australia, and the flights that they take actually do the same thing, and it makes perfect sense. Buenos Aires to Cape Town, major hubs. People want to go there. 4,276 miles. Let's say a plane only travels 500 miles an hour. We know they go faster than that. Okay. It should take 8.5 hours, maybe, right? Right. It takes 29 hours. The shortest flight to Cape Town goes all the way up to the northern hemisphere and then all the way back down. Makes 0 sense. It makes 0 sense.
So there's not a single direct flight, is what you're saying?
There might be there. I don't know if there's any direct flights from there, but there is a direct flight from Santiago to Australia. But they're very, very expensive. They're only run by one airline. There's only a certain type of plane that can do it. And we researched the planes, and they have 7 layers of heat-resistant paint on them. What is that about? Sounds like they're going a little faster than they're telling us. And when you go from Santiago to Eastern Australia, this is the route that they take. What's that?
The heat-resistant part, like that's why they would paint planes white instead of black. White absorb.
No. This is different paint. But forget about that. Here's the thing. When you go from here, they don't just zip across Antarctica or around Antarctica. That would be the shortest route. They go all the way up here. And if you want to go to Western Australia, you know what the route is? Check this out. It goes all the way up, all the way over to Europe and Dubai, and then down. That makes no sense. But if you look at it on a flat earth map, US, Europe, Dubai, Western Australia, a straight line. Airplanes fly straight and level over the earth plane. They don't nose down. If you're flying 500 miles an hour for an hour, if you don't nose down about a mile every 2 minutes, you're going to end up at 80,000 feet in an hour. But planes don't nose down ever. They don't nose down. They don't fly around a ball nosing down. They just fly straight and level in a straight line to wherever they're going.
They're not.
Yeah, relatively you don't feel it because the Earth is so big, and it's just.
That's a Bill Nye programmed you to say that in 1 minute, right? In 1 hour, the Earth is going to drop away 30 miles. So average that out over an hour. You have to nose down a mile every 2 minutes. Okay.
So
You notice when the pilot just starts the approach towards an airport, you wake up from your nap. You're like, oh my God, we're going down, right? This would be the most insane ride ever. Okay. And it doesn't happen. Gyros hold stationary, ignoring gravity. And that's how a plane knows its level. When it goes up, the gyro tells us it's going up. When it's going down, when it's turning, the plane turns, the gyro stays level.
Right.
And that's how they level out. The
Right.
gyro would take you right off into space, which it doesn't.
Well, I mean gravity.
Gyros hold rigidity in space.
It's. I think the Earth is just like in our globe model. It's a lot bigger than a plane. It's a lot. It's not like my fist is the size of the globe and like my hand would be a plane. It's not like you're going and turning all. It's so massive and the plane's so small. You're just flying with it.
I hear what you're saying, but that's insanity. How come how come a helicopter can't go up and just wait for the Earth to rotate underneath it? And the answer is gravity is bringing you all the way around. All right. Yes. So with that said, if you look at the Earth at the equator, the Earth is spinning 1,000 miles an hour. So this is the equator right here, 1,000 miles an hour.
Again, not an insane speed relative to everything.
Yeah, it just like 1,000.
It would be fast if you're in a car, but not if you're the Earth rotating.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If that's like making.
Hear me out. I'm with you. I don't disagree with what you're saying. So if you're sitting on the equator, relative to a point in space, 24 hours later, you're going to be right back to where you started from because you're moving 1,000 miles an hour. The Earth is roughly 24,000 miles around, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Now, if you were sitting in let's say you were sitting a mile from the North Pole. As a point of space, 24 hours later, you're going to be right back to where you started from, but you didn't go 24,000 miles. You just made a little circle 1 mile from the center of your point of access. If you remember your general math, 3.14 is pi. So 3.14 miles is your entire trip around. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're sitting on a runway in an airplane in a mile from the North Pole, you're moving at 3.14 miles per day, which is like 1/8 of a mile an hour, or even less. It's like moving less than a mile an hour. We'll call it 1 mile an hour, but it's way less than that. Okay. The plane takes off and flies down to Ecuador, right on the equator. And it wants to land on a north-south runway that's moving sideways to the east at 1,000 miles an hour. How the fuck does it land on that runway?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, you're not teleporting from one point to another, right? As you travel with the Earth, you're like the centripetal speed is what you're talking about. The speed on the equator is faster. So as you're traveling towards it, wouldn't you accelerate with the Earth due to gravity?
If you were driving on it, I'll give you that. But we're not driving. We're in the air. We're separated from the Earth.
Yeah, but gravity doesn't matter if it's air or ground. It's affecting you all the same, regardless of.
There's air. So check this out. At 40,000 feet above the Earth,
the Earth is
spinning. The Earth is spinning to the east. Okay, the Earth is spinning to the east. At 40,000 feet, the air is outrunning the spin of the Earth.
You mean wind?
The wind is outrunning the spin of the Earth by a couple hundred miles an hour. That's impossible.
But if you look at it as speed being relative, if you're in a car, your AC vent is blowing air, right? So is the AC vent blowing air at 85 miles per hour if you're driving?
No. Are you claiming that the Earth is inside a closed system? Because if it was, then I agree with everything you're saying.
Inside the closed system of its atmosphere.
So show me where you can have high pressure next to low pressure without a physical barrier.
Without a physical barrier?
Yeah, you can't. You can't. Imagine if the second floor of your house was a vacuum. There's just no air in there, and there was a valve sticking down into your room, and you open that valve, whoosh, all the air is gonna equalize instantly, right? Yeah. That's okay. So how come space, which is the ultimate low pressure, doesn't suck all of the air off of Earth? And if you say gravity, Okay. I can disprove gravity with a straw. Point a straw downwards, and with the weak low pressure of your lungs and mouth, you can suck air and water up and away from gravity at any altitude. So at what point does this vacuum of space agree not to suck all the air off of Earth?
I mean, probably at whatever distance our atmosphere ends, because that's where the hold of gravity is too weak to hold on to air, right? So our atmosphere.
No. That's nonsense. That is a made up story to defend your position. You have zero proof of that. They tell us that the space station, which is not in air at 250 miles up, is still in gravity. It's just falling around the Earth at the same rate as the Earth is dropping. That is nonsensical.
Mathematically, with physics and math, it makes sense.
It's really complex. It's
Maybe
not like
it's hard to understand.
Yeah, I mean, like I definitely like if you were to look at the mathematical equation, like it'd be pretty complex, but it's not like they just started.
All right,
like,
so let's go to another.
Yeah.
Let's use some math here. So, are you guys familiar with the Aristophanes, the Greek mathematician that figured out the size of the Earth with his sticks and shadows experiment?
Yeah, he got pretty close.
He got within 2%. Carl Sagan brainwashed that into us, and all the cosmos and all of that stuff. They've been teaching that in schools since the mid 1900s. Funny thing is, the guy that figured out the size and shape of the Earth wasn't mentioned in a single book until the mid 1900s, and when he showed up in some Rockefeller textbooks. Okay, but let's look at his experiment. He says he's here in Said. The sun is directly overhead on a certain day of the year, so he has no shadow. His buddy 500 miles away, he's got a shadow going up and down, and there's an angle, and he could do perfectly good math and figure out the sphericity of this, and he got it within 2%. But meanwhile, on a flat Earth with a small local sun, he's here, his buddy's here, he gets the same angles, he does the same math, and you could figure out the sphericity of this flat plane, okay? It works on both.
I guess if the sun isn't,
It's a made-up experiment. And the other thing is, he assumed that the sun rays come in parallel.
Yeah.
Well, why would you assume that when nobody has ever seen parallel rays? They're just telling you, well, the sun's so far away. In a cartoon, I could show you that the sun rays come in parallel. Nobody has ever seen parallel rays, but they'll use that as their excuse. What's that?
I like all those pictures, like sun's all reflecting through water droplets in the sky, and
it doesn't matter whether you're calling it refraction or whether it's a small local sun. The sun rays do not come in parallel, period.
It's not because like it's getting like the direction of the light's getting changed a little bit.
Even if it did, his experiment wouldn't work. He's assuming that the light is coming in straight, whether it's refracted, whether it's coming, whatever you want to say, there's not coming in straight. His experiment doesn't make any sense. And how did he even talk to his buddy 500 miles away? I mean,
as we have time, I think it'd be like really interesting. Like, I want to know like how this all, like, why would anybody,
why the lie?
Earth was
why the lie?
A square.
That's a good
point.
Why the lie?
Like what's the benefit?
The shape of the Earth doesn't matter.
Start?
The shape of the Earth doesn't matter whatsoever. All right. So the reason is right now the world's a little bit under tyranny. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's a total control happening. Communism is coming to all the countries in the world, and they're trying to control everything we do, think, say, spend, everything. This is all about control. So if you guys are you're in California. If I said there's a fence around California, you're no longer allowed to leave California ever, you might not be happy about that. Okay. It doesn't matter how big the fence is, how big the jail is, humans always want to go to the other side of that wall. Well, they put us on a ball, and that ball is a prison for our minds. Okay. It's to make us think that there's nothing else out there. Just like the Truman in the True Man show, right? He believed that was his whole world. So as long as we believe that we're insignificant pond scum flying through an infinite universe, spinning out of control, where an asteroid could take us out, can't happen, doesn't exist. Where nuclear bombs could take us out, can't happen, don't exist. Where we're running out of water, running out of food, none of that is real. It's all about control. The only control that governments have over us is in your mind. Because imagine if everyone woke up tomorrow and says, well, I don't believe anything the government says. I'm not going to listen. The government's nothing. The government's a flea. It doesn't even matter because they can't do anything. It's all about control. And it's all about making you think that you are not not important. They don't want you to know that you are at the center of creation, that you're not a spinning ball flying through space, and nobody can break your free will. They don't want you to know that you don't have to give up your rights. They don't want you to know that you don't have to pay them anything. You don't have to do anything they say. They don't want you to know that. And the way they do that is they divided us. They divided us by countries, by races, by religions, by color, by sex, by political parties, by vaccinated, unvaccinated. They've just divided. So we don't work together. They need us to manifest the world that they have. Everything you guys have in your life is because of the way that you think. Your thoughts create your own prison. Okay. And that's true for everybody, but they don't want us to know that there's more, that, that we have options, that we don't have to obey and be slaves. They have us in a slave system.
All right. And then real quick, what do you hypothetically, if you went beyond that wall that is Antarctica, do you think there's a bigger planet or a bigger flat plane? Would it be what's beyond that? Do you have any guesses?
Yeah,
anything?
so there's a story called that I highly recommend. There's someone read it. There's a book you get on Amazon, or you can get the reading on YouTube. It's called The Iron Republic, and it's a story about people in the 1600s didn't like the tyranny that was going on, and they left and they moved to the outer land, the outer space. Maybe they're living out here, right? They went through an opening and they're out here in the Iron Republic. So this is the outer space where there's extra territory, extra land.
There's a whole new sun and moon system too. Right?
There's a whole new sun and moon system out there, right? And perhaps they start, one of the theories is that the puddle started, the sun was born in the center under a star, sounds a little biblical, and everyone lived here, and then the sun moved outwards and everybody migrated outwards. The Mayans, the Incas, they all disappeared because they followed the sun out into the outer lands. And then a new sun was born here. Okay? So there's a lot to it. There's a lot of evidence that this might be the case. But again, nobody is allowed to go to Antarctica, into the outer lands. You can spend $10, $20, $30, $50,000 for a couple days. You're barely allowed off the boat. They show you some snow. They show you some icebergs and some penguins, and that's it. And then you're out. No one's allowed to explore.
No one's taken like a plane and flown somewhat near it, or like a drone or anything.
So a drone, they don't have drones that go thousands and thousands of miles. And here's the closest spot. So you fly out here to Antarctica. So this is, 3,000, 4,000 miles. Where are you going? How are you navigating? One, they won't let you. Two, there's no GPS there. You can't navigate by the stars. The compasses don't work, and there's no place to fuel up or anything. Okay. There's just a base. There's a base here, and there's a base here, and there might be another one somewhere, but no one's allowed to go there. One guy, I forget how long ago, but he got permission from his small country to go. He had a ship, tons of money. And he was stopped before he got to Antarctica by warships, and that threatened to sink him, turned him around, sent him home. And when he got home, he was jailed. Okay. Nobody is allowed to explore the outer lands of Antarctica.
Interesting.
And then does this just keep going like rings and rings?
Maybe. So again, maybe there's a dome. Maybe there's domes on, where is it? I have another image.
Domes on domes on domes.
Maybe just like those Russian dolls. Maybe there's a dome on top of a dome. Maybe another 10,000 miles away, there's another puddle. Maybe there's a million other puddles, right? With a million other worlds all across the Earth plane. That makes more sense than the ridiculousness of them coming from, like, if they came from the closest star 4.5 light years away, then they crash in Roswell, New Mexico, that is insanity. But maybe if they're just coming from here, they fly in, do their little abduction, and then they fly back and make it home for dinner. Okay. Who knows what it is, but the idea of the heliocentric world is literally insane. If you look at images, this was on everyone's iPhone, brainwashing you. They admit that this was made in Photoshop. They admit it, okay? If you look at the clouds, they're stepped and repeated, right? The guy that made it for NASA says he made it in Photoshop, and he made it from data, not from images. And he painted it, and he hit Command Z a lot. But if you look at this compared to the one that came out afterwards, look at the United States. I know we're getting fat, but Jesus, this is ridiculous. Okay. And then you say, okay, let's do something that we can look at. So if we look at where'd it go? Oh, I just lost my picture. Well, whatever. If we look at this, all of this other land has to be on the other side of this ball. That's impossible. That's ridiculous. It's insane. Right? And if we measured across Baja and Mexico, I should be able to fit 8.5 of these distances in between the diameter of the Earth. And it would literally go out to here if I did that.
I don't think that's necessarily a good argument just because you're like taking like specific pictures of the Earth. So like, I don't know.
What? They admit these are paintings. They admit that they're not right. This is Jupiter. 2 different pictures of Jupiter 2.5 years apart. And every single cloud is the same. Every single dot is the same. Right?
I mean, if you look at the supermassive size of Jupiter, if you go down to a size of Earth, I'm sure it probably changed a lot.
If you like look at it.
So that is, again, that is you struggling to do. So here, hold on. This is NASA giving us just a couple of days time lapse. This is a couple of days time lapse as they were sending a probe to Jupiter. Okay. So saying that these clouds don't change over 2.5 years is just nonsense.
Maybe they use the same picture. They're just
Maybe,
too lazy.
Yeah.
Take enough perfect.
Exactly. They're faking everything. Here's one for you. This is from the space station. How come we don't see any land?
Because they're looking at the ocean.
Well, that's a good answer, but the truth is, this isn't from the space station. They get $65 million a day budget. I get 0. We did this from our front yard and just turned it upside down. So that's how easy it is to fool people. And the stuff that NASA shows us isn't even that good, right? Check this out. They got some fresh fruit that came up in the Soyuz, right? Look at this lemon. It's not real. It's augmented reality. They're manipulating CGI objects. Look at his hand. If you think that's a real lemon, you're just making excuses. So they're faking things floating in space. You can unwind that all the way to we didn't go to the moon. Okay? NASA fakes everything. Everything. Right? You guys believe this is going on in Australia?
What?
I mean, no, because gravity makes it feel the other.
So you believe that gravity is holding all of this down, but I'm able to jump, right?
Yes,
I mean,
correct.
No upside down in space.
Well,
Not
I
like
mean, from our point of view, you believe that there's people upside down. Up is up for everybody, down is down for everybody, and that's it. There is no up is down nonsense, right? It's just so easy to, if you watch any of NASA stuff, I mean, if you watch like these guys are supposedly floating on the space station. Why do they have these bulky pants on? Why do they look like they're hanging from waist harnesses? Okay. Why do they always have their shirts buttoned up too high? They get times when they do their silly little flips, they get tangled in their wires. We catch them all the time. This guy's hanging from a waist harness, right? This is nonsense. And people just buy it up. People just believe it, right? Here's something. Watch that ball. He dropped it. It's a helium ball, but it lost some of its helium and it fell. Why did it fall on the space station? There is no gravity. Well, because there is gravity, but it's falling at the same rate. It's utter nonsense. Why do they fade this guy's head in? Why is his head transparent? It's not real. He's on a 0G plane and it's all edited nonsense. Nonsense.
Wait. Why would they edit him in if he's already?
Because on a 0G plane, you know what a 0G plane is?
Yeah, you're falling.
You mimic
right?
the effects of zero gravity.
Yeah. So on a 0G plane, they only have a certain amount of time, and there's no right hand turn. It's only a long thing. So they wanted to make him look like he's coming out from behind another thing, and they basically just faded him in. Here's one where they're not on a 0G plane. They're in different rooms, in green screen rooms, and the guy holding the microphone mistakes where Chris is, and he sticks the microphone right into his neck. Okay. NASA took this down right after it went up, but we already downloaded it. Right. So it's so easy to fake this stuff. It's unreal, and people just want to believe it because they don't like admitting that they've been lied to.
Okay, well, you've definitely given us things to think about.
Plenty.
Okay.
Plenty.
Sure.
But yeah, it's been a little over an hour and we're gonna have to cut it there.
All right, so one
going.
quick thing. Here's the challenge I have for anyone that thinks this is ridiculous, right? Anyone thinks this is ridiculous, get the Flat Earth app watch the daily video every day for 2 weeks. Okay, it's called the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. And if you still think the Earth is a globe, send me the proof and I'll give you a full Bitcoin. But you have to hit the question mark first, and up come all of the questions you're going to ask. Like if you said, what about eclipses? You click that and up comes a playlist that Google will hide from you. These are videos that will teach you about eclipses. Okay, these are videos that will teach you about eclipses. All of the stuff is answered there. Tons of information. And that's how you learn about flat Earth, or don't, and remain in your prison for the rest of your life.
All right.
Sounds good. Well,
thank you.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for
all right, now you got something to think about, and it's up to you whether you do what you do with it. This is I like to say this is your red pill moment, and it's up to you what you do with it.
All right.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right, guys. You can find me at theflatearthpodcast.com. All my links are there. The link to the app, everything else is there. The Flat Earth Podcast, and I am not on the space station. Okay.
I like to smell with green screens too. Yes.
All right.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks, Haley. See ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya.
The Flat Earth Sun and Moon Clock app. A dynamic new app to teach family and friends about where they actually live. The sky is a perfect clock. The sun measures the hours and days. The moon measures the weeks and months. The star constellations measure the seasons and years. 12/12 or 24-hour clock face, or go hands-free. The Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app with new added features. World Time. See what time it is all around the flat Earth. A true Earth compass that shows true navigation across and around the flat Earth plane. Weather. Tap for detailed local weather information. Know what phase and where the moon is at all times. Watch the sun travel between the tropics for the seasons. Select an amazing background. Add your own or have the app change it to a new one automatically every time you use the app. Add a countdown to your next big date. Learn the truth about our world with the featured video of the day. Web button for additional flat Earth related features, from the mythical curve calculator all the way to Tartaria. While talking to friends, easily pull up pictures that expose the globe lie and shine light on the flat Earth truth. Video playlists in different languages. See the real trade winds circling the flat Earth, and clean screen features. Simply click off the items you don't wish to see. The Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app is the best tool to show your friends and strangers how our flat Earth actually works.